Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you this evening. We have been working on this Bally Freedom pinball machine for a customer. We've done a few videos on it. We have done an entire other series on this same game, but it was a different actual serial number. It was somebody else's. And a gentleman saw that video and then he wanted us to work on his. So here it is. We've been working through it. We did one video kind of showing the condition it was in and trying to play it. You couldn't play it. And then we did another video where we cleaned everything, the switches, the relays, the stepper units, the score motor, all that stuff underneath the play field, and you still can't play it. So now we're going to work in the back box a little bit and see what we can get done. So that's what we're going to do on this video. So let's see what's going on in the back box and see if any of that's keeping it from doing what it does. So basically when you hit the start button, it resets everything back to 0. Resets the ball count unit back to 1, and then the ball never kicks out. Now we could try to just troubleshoot that one issue and figure it out, but if we do that, you know, we're trying to make it reliable for the guy so it'll last long term. So we've been going through and cleaning everything and just looking for issues as we go, so that hopefully once we do fix it, it'll last a long time for him. Sometimes if you only fix, you know, the problem that's popping up, you end up with more problems popping up a little bit down the road, and we don't want that to happen, because then the customer would have to drag this heavy thing all the way back down here. So we'd rather fix it and hopefully it'll stay fixed, right? So we're just going through and servicing it like we should, even though, like we usually do, even though it's a pretty clean machine. Everything's a lot of the stuff it looks like has already been messed with, cleaned up a little bit and serviced. So yeah, let me pull it away from the wall and we'll look in the back. Once you've started a game, it's actually in a game now. I just turned it on. It didn't go to game over. So it's still kind of in the mode that it dies in. If you hit the start button again, see how it says 2 can play down on the bottom left of the back glass? You know, we just got stuff going on where it's just it's adding another player because it still thinks that the game hasn't started. It basically thinks the ball's in the out hole and the out lane, and it's not. And if you try to play it, nothing, flippers don't work. It'll kick out. And that's just what we got right now. It's pretty dead. So let me slide it away from the wall and we'll start working in the back box. Maybe we can find something back there that's keeping it from going. I doubt it though, because typically stuff like that's something down in the bottom, and we cleaned all of that first. So, but let's see what we're looking at in the back box. Here's what we're looking at in the back box. Now, similar to the stuff in the bottom, it looks like it's already been worked through, because see how somebody's cleaned up that stepper unit? That stepper unit probably works fine. Let's try it. Yeah, so that's position 4, position 1, position 2, it will reset just fine, position 3, it will reset just fine. That stepper unit has no problems. I think that's the player unit. It's fine. Yeah, player unit. Somebody's written it on the side. When we were working through it before, we had a problem where this reel wouldn't reset. Now, why would that be? So I reset it myself. Usually, there's a couple reasons that could happen. It could be the switch here on the unit, which I'm looking at right now. So basically what happens is, when the game resets, the reset relay, which will be the number 1 score reset relay, probably does the top 2, and the number 2 probably does the bottom 2. You can figure that out by looking at the schematics. If this number is not on 0, there is a switch back here that's closed. And as this goes click, 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 it's sending power through that switch to the relay, to the coil, making it turn, and when it gets to 0, it opens a switch, And this keeps doing its thing, click, 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 but it no longer can turn that because the switch opened at 0. So it gets back to 0, and that's how it knows that it's at 0. So it could be the switch on that, or it could be the switch on that. There's also a second switch that opens at 0. And the purpose of that is to keep the reset relay running. So if you think about it, it's kind of smart. This coil gets back to 0, and it opens up a switch, which means that this can no longer turn. And then it opens up another switch as well, which means that this unit can no longer turn on the reset relay, not the score reset relay, the reset relay down at the bottom. And so they need 2 switches because one is just in series with these switches to actually move this, and one is holding on the reset relay. So if one of them is still trying to turn back to 0, since that one switch isn't open, the reset relay is still doing its thing. So a lot of times if you get one and the reset's just running over and over and over again, you hear the motor in the bottom running over and over and over again. It's because one of the score reels hasn't reset, or that switch is stuck, or something like that. So on this one, the reason that it won't turn is going to be either that switch, or it's going to be the switch on the reset relay that actually connects to it. So the one that connects it, you can usually tell by looking at the wire. There's a green wire running to it. Doesn't really matter which one it is, you just need to get them all working. But you can see that the green wire running from the second switch goes up and then loops back and goes to the coil. So the green wire connects to, looks like, yeah, a red wire with a green stripe. Okay. So when this is not on 0, right now it's on 1. When it's not on 0, you have a red wire with a green stripe sending power in. I'll just say sending power, but you know how AC works. And then the other side is a green wire that connects over to the coil. So if power comes in the red wire, or you know, if it's connected through, and that switch is closed because you're not on 0, then it will send power through the green, which will pull the coil in each time that this pulses. So this can't just pull in once; it has to clack, 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 clack. And each time it does that, it will turn this one revolution. If that switch is still closed, when it gets to 0, it'll open up. So it was the red wire with a green stripe. So if you look over here, sure enough, on the score reset relay, you have a red wire with a green stripe. And it goes to the lug on the back here. So it's this switch, but on the back. There's two levels of switches. So it's the hardest possible one to get to clean. But we use a little needle file, and you can get right in there. Clean it up a little bit, so I'll do that. And I'll just work through all of these just to make sure they're fine. But since someone's already cleaned them, I don't know that we have to actually go through all the score reels. We might get away with not doing that. How clean do they look? Not too clean. They don't look too clean. Might have to go through them all, people, to get them reliable. Okay, so I'll start cleaning stuff. So I'll clean up these, and I'll tell you if that one seems misadjusted or not, or if it seems like the one over there. But that's the only thing we know of for sure on this back that isn't working right. And we'll have to pull out the schematics to figure out why the ball isn't shooting out at the beginning of the game. Something going on. Okay, so they were dirty, and there was a couple on these point relays. So this is the 10-point relay, the 100-point relay, the 1,000-point relay. There was a few switches on there that looked like they were misadjusted, so it may have not been scoring. But we never got to that point. We just got to the point where we were trying to get them to reset, and the first one would not reset. So I'm going to just clean through all of the score reels. Mainly, you just got to get all of the switches on the side. Look how pretty of a shot that is. See what you got here? 3 sets of switches, all open, because it has went back around to 0. Now when I go to 1, watch what happens with the 3 sets of contacts there that you're looking at. So we're going to 1. So the bottom one is still open, but the top 2 have closed. And they will stay like that. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now when we go to 9, the bottom one closes as well. So now all 3 of them are closed. So the top one is keeping the reset relay on when it's resetting. The middle one is keeping the score reset relay, is allowing it to have the ability to reset all of the to reset the reels. And then the bottom one, since it is closed on 9, it's like that so that the next time it gets a stroke, instead of going from 9 to 0, it goes from 9 to 0, and then that switch carries the 1 over to the next reel. Now this is the first reel, so there's no reel here. So in this instance, it turns on the over-the-top relay, the 100,000 point relay. I guess that's not the over-the-top relay. The 100,000 point relay, which turns on the over-the-top relay. So whenever that happens, it lights up a bulb on the front saying that there's 100,000 points, and it sounds a buzzer. Bzzz. Wonder who that is. 1277. Did we figure out this was... No, this is from 76. So somebody got in the back box right when it was new and disfigured it. Come on now. Okay, so I'm going to go through and clean those switches, make sure everything's moving properly. But we kind of already know that it is because we reset it before. I had all of them set on 1 in the previous video, and whenever we hit start, they all reset except for that one, right? But I'm going to go through and clean them anyway because, again, we're just trying to get it more reliable for the gentleman so that he won't have problems down the road. There's probably all this stuff is working fine, but if it's dirty like that one, if that one stopped resetting, it's just a matter of time before that one stops resetting, people. We got to clean them. So I'm going to clean through them. If I find anything weird, I'll show it to you. So I cleaned every single one of them, people. I didn't find anything that looked... They're all dirty, though, so, I mean, that would keep it from resetting. It doesn't have to actually have a broken wire or be misadjusted. If one's dirty, that would do it, too. I did find several of them that the 9th position switch was stuck closed pretty much all the time. So the problem that would cause would be when you scored, 2 reels would turn. So they may have been having some scoring issues with that. It seemed to me like there was about 3 of them like that. So I've got them all on a digit other than 0 so that whenever we reset it, we can see if every single freaking one of them is capable of resetting. Okay. And I want to show you something beautiful here. We saw this whenever we messed with the bottom. The next thing we would probably be messing with would be these Jones plugs. And these things are usually filthy and all corroded and everything. But would you look at this? Someone, whoever wrote this stuff on here, and when they serviced it, someone has went through and cleaned up all of the Jones plugs so I don't have to. Look at them. Look how bright and shiny they are. I'll bet this is a Tarnex user. People have been telling me, I use sandpaper to clean them. People have been telling me, oh, you probably don't have to do that. You could use Tarnex, and it would take the tarnish off of the tin, silver, whatever this is. So this kind of does look like somebody's put a chemical on it or something because it's real shiny and clean. So I think we're good on our Jones plugs. Boy, they look like they're going to make great contact. Now, we mentioned in the other video, the different companies made different connectors. All of the male ends all look about the same. Sometimes they're a little bit longer. I'm going to get kicked off YouTube again. The female ends are different depending on the company. Now, this one, the way it works is wire is soldered to there, and then the metal comes up, and if you look Let me find a pointer. Let me find a pointer so I can point at it. So it comes up, and if you look, there is a metal blade down in there where it hits the side of the post, and then it comes up and it creates the face with the port in it, and then it goes around the side and hits the side of the post again. So you can bend these a little bit. Don't go crazy, but bend them a little bit just so I've got a little bit of tension to grab the post. All right. Another thing you can do is you can clean inside there with a bore brush. That's a bore, B-O-R-E, a bore brush, okay? Now, commonly, there are items that use a bore, right? Now, let me see, I'll have to draw you one because I can't say it on YouTube because, you know, the company that runs YouTube can't stand it when people talk about stuff like that. So here, I'll draw you a drawing of it. So one of these has a bore in the end of it, and so a bore brush cleans one of these. You can buy these, you just can't talk about them anymore. So if you go on our website, lionsarcade.com, you can't buy these, but you can buy the bore brushes. We have a link to them on Amazon, the right size too, so that they fit in the EM Jones plugs connectors really well. So it's a link to Amazon. Some of our other stuff is on there. Go to lionsarcade.com, go to our parts page. We've got links to stuff like that that we use in our videos, and our t-shirts and stuff like that, coffee mugs if you want any of that stuff. And if you go to Amazon to buy one of those by clicking one of our links, anything you buy on Amazon, even if it's not that item, the bore brush, if it's anything, buy a pair of socks, it gives us a little tip because we sent you to Amazon with that link. So a couple of you crazy people out there have bookmarked one of our links, and then every time you buy something on Amazon, it gives us a tip because you use our bookmarked link. That's so nice of you. And I see you out there, Mr. Lawnmower Repairman, who has been buying stuff nonstop for well over a year. Thank you to whoever that is. Somebody out there repairs lawnmowers and they buy new carburetors for lawnmowers constantly using our link. So thank you, whoever that is. But anyway, back to the machine. So normally we have to clean those all up, but someone has already cleaned them up. Normally we have to clean up the stepper unit, but somebody has already cleaned that up. The switches were not cleaned, so we got all of them. We cleaned all the relays. What's left? We got the credit unit here, but once the thing is on free play, this really isn't even necessary anymore. But let's see if it's actually moving. So to reset it, to decrement it, that happens. But they have it set over here so that this little post that goes around never opens the switch. Let me show you. This is how they have set it on free play. Okay, so right now it's on 0. Whenever you put a quarter in or a nickel in or a dime in or whatever it is, one of the little relays closes and it pulls in this coil on the credit unit. So it pulls this in and it moves that wheel that way. So as it moves it, the number in the window gets bigger. Of course, we're looking at it upside down from the back. So we're up to about 10 right now. Okay. As you play the game, it takes one off. So when you start the game, this one goes in. Well, now you got less and less and less and less, right? So the way that it works is this little wheel spins around and it has this little post on it. So as you go down, that post eventually gets to this set of switches, and if it opens these switches, I guess it's this one and this one. If it opens these switches, ignore these. If it opens these switches, the game cannot start because you're out of credits. But they have adjusted the switch so that when this gets all the way down to 0, the post doesn't open it. It's still connected. Okay. Now that other one above it is open, but I think that's a light or something. We're going to have to look that up. But anyway, it's working fine. It's moving both ways, and they've got the switches rigged up to where it won't ever run out of credits. So, also, what makes the knocker work is whenever this coil pulls in to give you a credit, that's if you put a quarter in or you win one or whatever. When it goes in, this little bar on the other side connects that switch. It's called the end of stroke switch, and that end of stroke switch is connected to the knocker. So if you ever get one that goes knock and it just kind of stays like that, it's because this thing is stuck probably. And there is the knocker. Let's see if I can prove that. It's got a blue and orange wire, maybe blue and red. Blue and orange wire, what do you know? It's like I've seen one of these before. All right, so yeah, we just need to see if it's going to reset. I think what I'll do first, the very first thing I want to do, we're going to break out the schematics, and I'm going to figure out why there are two switches here, and one of them they have bent open. So they've got one where it never opens, and then one, it's always open. I always do it where I leave where this one never opens and this one never opens. But they've got one here that they bent open permanently on purpose. So I'm going to see why that is. Let's look that up in the schematics. So we've laid out the schematics on our Bally Knight Rider and our Stern Flight 2000. You don't think Gary Stern will mind that we're using his game to look at Bally schematics, do you? I mean, I know Bally won't mind. They're out of business anyways. But and look at this. Okay, I'm going to show you a sneak peek since you've watched this deep into the video. They have that new thing on YouTube, chapters, where you can like fast forward to the part you want to see anyway. So maybe you did that. But okay, I'm going to slowly slide over so you can see. That's all you get to see. That's all you get to see, people. You'll have to watch our other videos to see what the heck that was. Coming soon. Okay, so the credit unit, when it gets to 0, 0, 0, let me show you. This is a really cool thing, okay? Here's the credit button. That's what we would call the start button, basically. You hit the button. So that's how you start a game, okay? So when the score motor is in kind of the home position, that's connected. If the reset relay is not resetting the game at the moment, it's in its home position where that's normally connected, right? And then you press the button so it connects power from here through the score motor because it's not turning, it's in its home position, through the reset relay because it's not on, it's in its home position, through the credit button which you just pressed with your finger, and through the credit unit 0 switch. So that's that switch that they've got where it never can open. So even though it's at 0, that switch doesn't open. So it's always closed, which means you can always press the button and connect power through it. The coin unit limit switch is normally closed, and then it goes up and it hits the credit relay, right? So that's how you start a game. Okay, so the only thing keeping you from being able to press the start button, the credit button, is if the credit unit 0 switch is open, if it's on 0. So if you bend that switch, it's always closed. That will always start whenever you hit the button. Okay? So what is the other switch for? Well, here's another mystery. The credit unit 0 switch, that's the second one. That's the other one. That's the one that they have adjusted open, where it's always open, right? All it does is it lights up the credit light on the panel. Credit panel light. So what is that? That's this mysterious little light right there. So on the apron of a lot of games, there is a little light that can light up right there. The purpose of that was, you saw how they've got that one little switch just to turn that light on. So if you're not on 0, that switch is closed and that light is on. So that light just means that there's a credit on the game. Well, why would they do that? It's all legal stuff. Like in certain areas, it was against the law for the game to tell you how many credits it had on it. And so you had to have, for people to know that there were credits, there had to be a light. And it's just ridiculous stuff. for a while they were outlawing the pinball machines because people were gambling on them and blah, blah, blah. I had a gentleman in here the other day telling me about when he was younger, he used to play them, and he was so good at this one that, and it was way back in the day when they were only a nickel. And when he was a kid, he was so good at some pinball machine that he'd win 3 or 4 games and then sell them to his friend for like a dime. So every time he went to the convenience store, he made money playing pinball whenever he was a kid, and apparently that was a thing. But that's gambling, people, and that's wrong. You definitely shouldn't do that. So the government got all involved. Boy, I'm on a rant today, aren't I? The government got all involved and said, oh no, in this area you can't do that, and made them put a freaking light bulb on it. Now, you might say, oh, come on, Ronnie, that's nonsense. You're looking at it. You are looking at it. The only reason that switch is on the game is to turn that freaking light on. Now you know. All right, so let's set it back down, and we'll try to start it and see if anything's changed. I doubt anything has, but guess what? It's time to look through the schematics and figure out why it's not starting a game. So we'll set it down, hit start, and see what happens. So the reason he was able to gamble, think about it, was because he won 4 free games. They were a nickel apiece. He had 4 free games. He sells them to his friend for a dime because they're worth 5 cents a piece, so they were worth 20 cents. Because it said 4 on the back box. In certain locations, they made it where it can't say on the back box. On this one, it still does, but it can't say on the back box. It could just light up the light if there's more than 1 credit on the machine. So now the light's lit up, and you try to sell them to your friend, you don't have any proof that there's 4 games on the machine. They went through all that freaking trouble about a dime. Anyway, so I plugged it back in, and we're not ready to start yet because, see how it says ball and play? It shouldn't say that. We were just unplugged. It should say game over. So that's part of our problem. It's not in the right mode. It should be, whenever you turn the game on, it should trip it in the game over mode. So that's going to be something with the lock relay or something like that. So let's figure out why that is. When you put power on it, it should go into game over if you're in the middle of a game. Okay, so again we have this big, huge schematic. By the way, this is the later Ballys and the later Williams. This is a 1976, and it was like the middle of 76. These things got really complex right before it went to solid state. So they have a lot going on. So where do you even look to try to figure something like that out? Well, think about what the essence of our problem is. Usually you can tell what the problem is by lights. So the essence of our problem right now is that the game over light isn't on. And the reason the game over light isn't on is because the game's not over. We're stuck in some weird limbo where the flippers don't work and nothing works. And also the game's not over, right? So one way to kind of narrow down what you need to look at is to look at the light problem. So the lights are just right here, and they're much simpler. So like we were just looking at that switch that turns on the light on the control panel. Okay, here is the game over light, and it's not lit. So why is it not lit? Either the bulbs burn out, or it's not getting power through the game over relay. Well, that seems right, because the game over relay, if it was tripped over to here, would turn the light on, and whenever I hit start, it just adds more players. So something's going on with that, right? Also, it says ball and play 1 is lit up, which is this light right here. So that switch is connected. The game over relay is normally connected to that switch. Now, another thing that's confusing is that some of these relays have a latch. They have two coils on them. One's a latch, which holds it on, and the other one's a trip, which resets it back to how it was. So since it's one of those, that's what they're talking about. The game over relay is tripped. So in its normal position, that's how it should be, and that's how it is right now. So we need this game, I may have that wrong, it's not tripped. If we need this thing to go to this way, trip to game over, right? So whenever you look through the schematics, you're looking for the game over relay, and then we'll see what makes it happen, right? And so one of the things that you can see is this. This is the game over relay latch. And if you notice, it's connected to a whole bunch of other ones, like the ball count unit reset, the coin unit reset, the player up unit reset, right? And then it's powered by the reset relay, a switch that's normally open. So the line through it means normally closed. So when the reset relay pulls in, it trips all of those at the same time, including the game over relay latch. Well, that's obviously at the beginning of a game. Whenever it's resetting, the reset relay comes in. So we don't want the latch, we want the game over relay trip. I know it's kind of complicated, it's just how they did it. Remember, this was, like I said, right before the solid state games, so they were about as complex as they got. There's a bunch of crap going on. So this is the game over relay trip. It's up here. One side is connected. The other side can be tripped several ways. So one way it can be tripped is through this balls per game adjustment. So if it's on 3, on the ball count unit, whenever you get up to ball 4, there is no ball 4, and it trips the game over relay. If it's on 5, when you get to ball 5, it trips it through this, 6 and 7 always being connected. So basically, if you're connected to ball 5, you're not connected to anything. It just lets the ball count unit do it. Pretty cool. Okay, and then another way that you can trip the game over relay, which ours isn't doing, is if the ball count unit is not on 0. See, this is another confusing one. It says ball count unit 0, and it's talking about the switch. So the ball count unit 0 switch is normally open. So what does that mean? It means when it's at 0, when the ball count unit 0 switch is at 0, it's open. So as soon as it moves to 1, the ball count unit position 1, it will shut that switch. Once that switch is shut, then the coin relay, if it shuts too, it will trip the game over relay. Another way is if the player up unit 0 switch is not at 0, it will close because it's open at 0. And then the coin relay will trip the game over relay. So what does all that mean? If you're on the first position of the ball count unit, you can't, the coin relay, whenever you hit start, it pulls in the credit relay, which then pulls in the coin relay. Okay, according to the schematics, and I could show you, but just take longer. So when the credit relay pulls in, it pulls in the coin relay. If you are still on position 0, this switch is open, and so it doesn't reset the game. It doesn't latch the game over relay. Okay? It just adds another adds another player. That's what ours is doing right now. But the reason it's doing it is because this is at 0, this is at 0. So we should be in game over, though. That's our problem. So this one here is another way to get the game over. The lock relay is normally closed, and it's directly connected to the game over relay. So the switch on the lock relay is normally closed. So what does that mean? If the lock relay has not pulled in, there is a switch that provides power to the game over relay. If the lock relay is not on, okay? So what turns on the lock relay? We got to find it. This is actually something that you commonly run into. Here we go. There's the lock relay. So look, on one side it's connected to this wire, right? That is connected through a normally closed switch on the delay relay. I don't know if you can read it. Yep. These schematics are a little bit blurry. And then on the other side, it's connected directly to the transformer. So what turns on the lock relay? The power turns on the lock relay. As soon as you turn the game on, the lock relay comes on. So what's the deal? Well, for a split second, the lock relay is not on because the power is still going through the wires, and it's running. It's trying to get to the lock relay to turn it on. But for just a second, the damn thing ain't on. But the power's on. And so before the lock relay can pull in, power should connect through here and turn on and trip the game over relay. And then almost immediately the lock relay will pull in at about the same time that the game over relay pulls in. So basically the switch on the lock relay, whenever the power's off, it's not connecting right. So let's go look at that. So this is the lock relay. Notice it looks all burnt up. That's because the whole time the game is on, like we said, if it's got power, this thing is pulled in. Okay, so you might think at first, oh, well, that's the problem. The coil's burnt up. That's why it won't go into game over. Nope. Remember, there's different ways to go into game over. We're just talking about how does it go into game over when you first turn the game on if you were in the middle of a game before. Right? So the way it does it is, since that switch is closed, before this can pull in, power goes through that switch and trips the game over relay. And then this switch, as soon as power is applied to the game, this switch pulls in and will open that thing up. It's actually still warm. It's been, because it's been on for a while. It will open that switch up. And it will sit like that all day. Right? So you might think, well, why in the world would they even put that in there? That doesn't make any sense. It's so that it can. It's so that the tilt circuit can work, the delay circuit actually. So let me show you on the machine. I mean on the schematics again. But basically, that switch needs to be cleaned so that before this thing pulls in, at the very split second that the game's turned on, power goes through it and trips the game over relay for us. It's you could leave it how it is, and it would just always be in the middle of a game if you stopped in the middle of a game. Because remember, when you get up to ball 4 on a 3-player game or ball 6 on a 5-player game, it trips the game over relay. I think I actually even did it like that in an earlier video. So it's not that big of a deal, but it's obviously messed up, and we're trying to fix the stuff as we go through it. So let me show you in the manual. I mean the schematics. So there's our lock relay, and remember I was talking over here that it's on if the delay relay is normally closed. So if the delay relay has not been pulled in, that switch has not been opened up. So what pulls in the delay relay? That's it right there. It can be pulled in. This switch is a hold switch on itself. It can be pulled in by the slam switch, the mounting slam, the cabinet slam switch, or the front door slam. Okay. So, we talked about this on an earlier video too. If you missed it, you missed a lot. You're going to have to go back and watch. The delay relay, once it pulls in, so like you hit the slam switch on the cabinet, it would turn on the delay, and the way it works was it holds itself on through a switch through itself and a freaking light bulb, a 455 light bulb, which is a blinker. So once that bulb heats up, it opens up and turns off. Well, once it turns off, it can no longer hold itself on through itself, and if the slam switch is no longer pressed, then the delay relay can't hold in. So it lets go again, which reconnects this. Right? So the only way that the lock relay was getting power was through the delay relay. As soon as the delay relay comes on, it drops the lock relay. And you know what that's going to do? Wah, wah, wah. So you hit that slam switch, your game's over, sucker. That's what you get for beating up my pinball machine. All right, so the lock relay, we just need to clean that switch on it, and we're going to keep cleaning it until we get it perfect, so when you turn the game on, it trips it in the game over like it should. All right, so we're going to watch it in real time. This burnt up one is the lock relay. As soon as I turn power on, you will see that come in. If our switch is right, slightly before that happens, this one will trip. That's the game over relay. So that's the trip, and that's the latch. So we should see this trip if we've got it fixed. If we don't, we'll keep messing with it until we do. Okay, so I'm going to hit the power. Nope, didn't work. Let's try it again. Nope. Still didn't work. I see the lock relay is working fine, but no matter what, it does not trip that game over relay. I wonder if the game over relay is not easily tripped. Feels like it is. Wait, there's a wire over there. I wonder if it's the other switch. So that wire I'm talking about is there is a red and white wire right here coming off the other side of this that has to go through the game over relay. So basically, if the latch is latched, this wire will be connected, which gives it the ability to trip the game over relay. I guess once it trips, it can no longer power itself. I guess that's so that it doesn't try to trip several times. Okay, so that red and white wire goes to another switch, this one, so it has to be adjusted right properly too. So one side comes from the lock relay, and then it gets its power through this switch. So when this is pulled in, what we're trying to do is get this to go that way to reset this, right? But when this is pulled in, that switch has to be connected, and it has to open when it trips. So I'm going to clean it, adjust it, make sure it's right, and then we'll try it all again. Okay, so I adjusted it. So this is the lock relay. It always comes on when the power comes on. But before it does, the split second before it does, it should send power through that switch that's closed right now because it's off to this side of the coil. The other side of the coil will get power through the switch up here that's closed, the red and white wire that's closed because the game over relay latch is in. Okay, all of this just to get it in game over mode. Okay, so I've got this adjusted, it should be good. This one we've got adjusted, it should be good, and if they both work just perfectly and the timing is just perfect, we will see this one click in and throw us into game over just because we turned on the machine. Bam! Just like that. We did it. We didn't do much, but we did it. The freaking game over light is on. That's what it's supposed to be like. Now we can try to start the game and hit, see if it'll reset. Okay, so we fixed that one small issue, and now we're in game over mode. So now we're going to try to start it. See, the player unit is on 4 players. The ball and play unit, I think, is still on 1 ball, but it's the game over relay strip, so that's not in play right now. I've got all of the score reels set on a number other than 0, except for the 4 zeros are the dummy reels. Those don't even exist. It's just a little piece of plastic. So we're just going to see if all of the score reels reset, and it should kick the ball out into the shooter lane, which it has not been. So that's been our problem. But let's see if we've at least got it where it goes into game over now when you turn on the game. Let's see if they all reset. They do all reset. And it kicked the ball out. Uh-oh. Oh, hell. I wonder if a flipper will work. Oh man, the damn flipper's working. Let's see if another flipper will work. Another flipper will work. It's coming right along, people. We found something in there cleaning stuff to get it to work, right? It may have, maybe it was that game over thing, I don't know. Let's see if it'll score at all. That wasn't enough. We're going to have to give it a little more. I'm hearing scoring. Boom. Ball and play 2. Looking good. We got 1,000 points. The pops are looking good. Saucer is looking good. Ball in play number 3. Ooh. Ball and play number 4. Let's see if our saucers and stuff are working. Scores will value. It should advance the bonus and give us 500 points. We're at 10,320. The bonus is at 2,000. The bonus advanced, and we're now at 10,820. Worked perfect. That's how we want it, people. Okay, yeah. So it seems to be working pretty good. Let's make sure it ends the game. Ball and play number 5. Game over. Okay, let's look at the schematics one more time. And I want to look at that switch again. Okay, so you just saw the reason that our game over relay wasn't, ultimately it wasn't tripping, was because of this switch on the game over relay latch. Okay, and it gets its power through the delay relay, right? And so these are the 100,000 relays that can turn on without this switch working. But all of this stuff from here down needs that freaking switch to work. So this is all the stuff that couldn't have worked until I figured out that switch was screwed up. The game over relay, trip, the out hole relay, which kicks the ball out of the out hole. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, sure does. Remember, it wouldn't kick the ball out earlier. The ball index relay, the extra ball relay, the tilt relay. Yes, there's a tilt and a delay. So the tilt makes you lose one ball. The delay makes you lose the whole game because the delay turns off the lock relay, which kills the game over. It trips the game over relay. The wheel unit, step-up solenoid wouldn't have worked. The spinner relay, the targets down relay, the bonus unit step-up solenoid, the spinner score change relay, the double bonus relay, the target sequence relay, the 501 advance relay, the 10-point relay, the 100-point relay, the 1,000-point relay. And then the left flipper and the right flipper. And the slingshots. Well, if you go back to when we tested it in the first video, that's exactly what was going on. None of that stuff was working. It was all that one freaking switch. But think about it. How did we figure out which switch it was? Because we were trying to fix something that wasn't even that big of a deal. I said, hey, the game over light should be on, but it's not. It's not that big of a thing, but at the beginning of the game over light should be on. And we tracked it all down, and we fixed 20 different freaking problems by just finding one little switch that was screwed up. I feel like Don Lepre. Just a tiny little switch, people. A tiny little switch was making things not work in classified ads all over the United States. He hung himself. I shouldn't be making fun of that guy. Anyway, I'm sure it's still got some other things, but I think we've generally got it all working. So we'll do another video where we play through it and just check and make sure everything's fine. We'll find some other stuff that doesn't work and track it down on the schematics in the next video. So I hope you enjoyed it. Leave us a comment below. Make sure to give us a thumbs up for taking the trouble to film it for you. I think we got it going. Should I test my luck and try to start another game just to prove it? The hell with it. It's live TV. Let's try it. Bam! Just like it ought to be. Alright, so leave your comments below. Let us know what you think so far. We'll do another video, like I said, getting a little farther into it if we find other stuff broke. And make sure, now people, some of you have been doing this and some of you haven't, okay? I got to talk to you about something serious here. If I say go watch my brother's channel, go watch my brother's channel. Go check out my brother Donnie here on YouTube. If you haven't watched it yet, you're missing out. We've been having so much fun over there. If you like watching us work on these old pinball machines, you'd probably like watching us work on old buildings. So we have bought a couple small buildings, very inexpensive, people, very inexpensive, in a small town near here in their downtown area, and we've been fixing them up. so that we can rent them out to people. And it's been a blast. So go check that out if you haven't. He's over there all the time doing stuff. He's going on a trip tomorrow that he's filming the whole thing and just doing something crazy tomorrow. We'll talk about later. But go check out the My Brother Donnie channel. The link is down below. So I hope you enjoyed it. We'll get back into it again on the next video, but y'all have a good evening.